Well, listeners, tonight we're going someplace a little different, a little spooky even.
Oh, spooky.
Yeah, just in time for these long November nights. Perfect for right before the holidays.
Right.
So tonight we're diving into parador.txt.
Okay.
It's a first-hand account from this truck driver named Glenn. He had this crazy experience at a roadside stop, and it left him with, well, more questions than answers, really. The place was called El Parador.
I mean, that's what I think is so interesting about these kinds of stories. Like, you're left with that lingering unease.
Yeah, you know that feeling. It gets under your skin. So tonight we're going to unpack what happened to Glenn. We'll try to figure out what the deal is with this El Parador place. And, of course, we've got to cover all the strange rumors.
All the spooky rumors, yeah. Let's get into it.
All right. So our story starts with Glenn, just doing his job. He's a truck driver, and he knows his route like the back of his hand. Hauling auto parts on a familiar run from Torreon to Saltillo. It's late, and he's been on the road for hours. You can almost picture it. Late night, probably pretty tired, just wants to get where he's going.
Oh, for sure. You got to think about that when you hear these stories. The fatigue, being alone out there on the road, it definitely changes how you see things, how you react to things.
Absolutely. So Glenn knows he needs to stop, but he's on a tight schedule. He keeps driving, and eventually he sees it up ahead. A roadside stop. El Parador. But here's the thing, and this is where it starts to get a little strange. Glenn doesn't recognize this place. And he's driven this route a million times. Have you ever had that? Like, you know a place so well, and then suddenly there's something new, something that just doesn't belong.
It is kind of unsettling, isn't it? Like, you expect things to stay the same, and when they don't, it makes you wonder.
Like, why is this here? What's going on?
Exactly.
So Glenn pulls into El Parador. It's not a big place, just a parking lot, a Canada, a little store and some bathrooms out back. Dim lights, like they're all burnt out or something. But the thing that gets him, the thing that really stands out is the silence.
Really?
Yeah, no other trucks, no music, no people talking, nothing. Just quiet.
Wow. Yeah, that's not normal, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, usually truck stops are kind of lively, especially off a main route. Lots of activity, people coming and going.
You'd think, right? So Glenn's tired, needs a coffee. Well, trucker doesn't, right? So he heads into the tienda. Inside, he meets the encargado, the manager, this older guy. But there's something about his smile. Glenn says it was uncomfortable, almost forced,
I get what you mean. Like, something's off about it. Like, he's trying too hard.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's this other thing. Two guys sitting in the back of the tienda, just watching Glenn. Not talking, not eating, just watching.
Oh, that would creep me out for sure. Like, they're sizing him up or something, like they're waiting for something.
Right. So picture this. Glenn's paying for his coffee. He's about to leave, and the encargado asks him this simple question, but the way he asks it, it sends chills down Glenn's spine. He says, "Vas solo," which is, are you alone?
It's crazy how a normal question can sound so ominous depending on, like, where you are and who's asking, right?
Right, like suddenly this everyday phrase takes on a whole new meaning. And Glenn, he's alone in this strange place with these guys just staring at him. It's definitely creepy.
I can see why he'd be freaked out.
So Glenn just brushes it off. Yeah, I'm alone. Gets back to his truck as fast as he can. But as he approaches his truck, he notices something. The door's slightly ajar. Now Glenn, he's meticulous about his truck. Always double checks the doors. Always. This is, sets off all kinds of alarms in his head.
I bet. I mean, it's like that feeling you get when you think you've locked your front door, but then you aren't sure. It just makes you uneasy.
Totally. So he checks the cabin, make sure nothing's been taken, and everything seems to be in place. But that feeling that something's just not right, it sticks with him.
I can imagine. So what does he do?
He gets out of there, of course. But that's when things start to get really weird. As he's pulling away from El Parador, he notices that his side mirrors have been moved. And Glenn, he's adamant that he always adjusts his mirrors before driving. So someone or something had to have messed with his truck.
No way. That would totally freak me out. It's like someone's messing with you, like playing mind games.
Exactly. And then it gets worse. There's this unfamiliar smell in the cabin, like a sweaty smell. It's not his, and it just adds to his growing anxiety.
Ugh, that's so creepy. Like, the air itself is heavy with something you can't quite place.
And if that wasn't enough, he catches a glimpse of something in one of his mirrors, a shadow, but it's not his shadow. Now, Glenn's thinking that maybe it's the exhaustion or maybe he's had too much coffee and it's messing with his head. I mean, wouldn't you be freaking out at this point?
Oh, absolutely. But it does make you wonder, is it real or is it all in his head?
Right. And that's exactly what's going through Glenn's mind. He pulls into the next service station just to try and calm his nerves, clear his head, and that's where things take a really interesting turn.
Oh, here we go. I love when these stories start getting into the rumors and the legends. It's like what's real and what's just a story. What have people been saying about this place?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in this case, the stories about El Parador are pretty chilling.
Welcome back. We're deep in the mystery of El Parador, this creepy roadside stop. Remember, we left off with Glenn at a service station trying to shake off the bad vibes.
Right. His head's probably spinning from all the weird stuff that just happened. He sees some other truckers and decides, why not? Let's share what happened. So he tells them, about the weird feeling at El Parador, the stuff in his truck, how someone messed with his mirrors, the smell, everything. And he's like, something just isn't right about that place.
And you've got to remember, Glenn's a trucker, right? He's seen a lot on the road. So if he's spooked, something really weird must have gone down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So he finishes his story, right? And the other truckers, they kind of exchange these looks, like they all know something. And one of them, this older guy, leans in and he's got this serious look on his face. He says, that place, it's known among us truckers. It's not safe.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, right. And he continues, lots of travelers have stopped there and disappeared.
Wow, that's chilling. I mean, can you imagine? You're already freaked out, and then someone confirms your worst fears.
Talk about validation, but in the worst way
Yeah,
possible.
exactly. It's like, okay, so I'm not crazy, but now I'm even more scared.
Right. So then another trucker overhears them talking and jumps in. He tells Glenn that years ago, a friend of his stopped at El Parador and just vanished. Poof, gone.
Oh, man. Now it's personal. Now it's not just some vague legend. It's a real person, someone they knew. Makes it so much creepier.
And the details, they're just as strange. Days later, they find his truck, miles away from El Parador. The cargo, totally untouched. But someone tried to break into the trailer. There were signs of forced entry, but they didn't take anything.
Wait, they broke in but didn't steal the cargo? That's so weird. What were they looking for?
That's what I'm saying. It's like, what's the point? Why break in if you don't want the stuff inside?
It doesn't make sense.
Exactly. So now Glenn's really freaked out. He's got his own creepy experience. Plus, these stories about people disappearing. It all starts to feel like, like an urban legend or one of those campfire stories that keep you up at night.
Yeah, those stories that get under your skin and make you look over your shoulder.
Right. And so the big question becomes, is El Parador like a paranormal hotspot? One of those places where weird stuff just happens. Or is it something else? Maybe some kind of criminal activity, people using the isolation to their advantage.
Or even worse, right, maybe it's both. Maybe it's this dark, creepy place that attracts bad things.
The fact that we don't know, that's what's so unsettling. It leaves you with this feeling like something's not right, but you can't explain it.
Definitely. It makes you think, are there places out there where the normal rules just don't apply? Like, are there pockets of weirdness that we just stumble into sometimes?
Okay, so we've got Glenn sitting there, probably wishing he'd never heard of El Parador. What does he do next? Back again with the deep dive. We're finishing up with El Parador, that roadside stop with all the weird happenings and disappearances. So where do we leave off with Glenn?
He's driving, right, getting away from that service station, but probably still thinking about all those stories, the disappearances. It makes you wonder, what's really out there?
Oh, I'd be thinking about it for sure.
Makes you question things, right?
For sure. Especially when you're alone like that. And remember, Glenn's a practical guy. Not the type to just freak out over nothing. He's seen a lot. But this whole thing, El Parador, the stories, it's shaking him up pretty bad.
Yeah.
He does finish his route, no problem, gets where he's going. But I bet he's never looked at a roadside stop the same way again.
I bet. It's like when you see a spider and it just freaks you out even after it's gone.
Yeah, like it leaves this feeling. You can't shake it.
You just never know what's lurking in the shadows, right?
Ugh, stop. You're creeping me out.
Sorry. But that's what makes these stories so fascinating to me. Like, what's really going on? Is El Parador just one of those places where, maybe the line between our world and something else is a little blurry? Or is it just like a bad place that attracts bad people?
Right, and that's what we keep coming back to. We just don't know. There's no answer.
Makes you want to look into these things more, Like, what are the stories about the places we drive through every day? Are we just oblivious?
Seriously, maybe we should be more careful.
Maybe just avoid those dark roadside stops, especially if you're alone.
Especially late at night,
Always trust your gut feeling. If a place feels off, it probably is.
Yeah, good advice. Well, That's it for tonight's deep dive into the mysteries of El Parador. These stories always leave me with a little chill.
Yeah, me too. But it's good to be reminded that there are still mysteries out there, right? Things we can't explain.
Hmm. Makes you think, for sure. And on that note, we're out of time. Listeners, stay safe out there, and until next time, keep exploring the strange and unexplained.
If you enjoyed this video and want to dive deeper into more cases like this one, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like the video if you found the story compelling, and share it with your friends and family who might be interested in true crime and mysteries. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with all our latest content and join a growing community of curious minds exploring the most fascinating cases. Click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything.